It was raining so hard that the highway had almost disappeared beneath a sheet of silver water when I noticed a lone figure standing beside the guardrail. Most drivers sped past without even slowing down. Some barely looked. I almost did the same. I had every reason to keep driving. My own life was already falling apart, my savings were gone, my marriage had ended months earlier, and I was heading toward another lonely night in my small apartment in Montana, United States. But something about that stranger, standing completely still with soaked clothes and tired eyes, made me press the brakes. I had no idea that the simple decision to stop my truck that evening would become the moment that divided my life into two parts, before I picked up that stranger, and after. If you believe kindness and second chances still have the power to change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these true-to-heart stories alive. My name is Nathan, and at that point in my life I believed that kindness was something people talked about but rarely practiced. Losing my father the previous year had broken something inside me. The family construction business had failed shortly afterward, leaving me buried in debt. Friends slowly disappeared when I needed them most, and I found myself questioning whether helping others had ever been worth it. Yet as I rolled down my passenger window and looked at the exhausted stranger, every painful lesson I had learned suddenly felt less important than the person standing in front of me. The stranger introduced himself as Michael, a man probably in his late 60s whose face carried the weight of years filled with both love and disappointment. His backpack was worn almost beyond repair, and his hands trembled from the cold. There was nothing threatening about him, only exhaustion that seemed to reach far beyond his body. I offered him a ride to the next town, expecting silence for the rest of the journey. Instead, mile after mile, pieces of his story slowly emerged like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Michael had once owned a successful family hardware store in Ohio. He had worked every day for decades to provide for his wife and daughter. Then tragedy arrived without warning. His wife passed away after a sudden illness, and grief changed everything. His daughter moved across the country, believing distance would help her heal. Misunderstandings grew into years without speaking. Eventually, Michael sold everything he owned, hoping to travel until he found the courage to reconnect with the only family he had left. Unfortunately, bad luck followed him. His car broke down beyond repair, his savings disappeared paying unexpected expenses, and he eventually found himself walking highways with little more than hope. Listening to his story made me realize how easily any life could fall apart. We often imagine that hardship belongs to someone else until one day it belongs to us. As we drove through the rain, we spoke less like strangers and more like two people carrying invisible wounds. I admitted that I had stopped believing life could ever improve. Michael smiled gently and said that sometimes God sends people into our lives disguised as interruptions, when they are actually the answers we never knew we needed. Those words stayed with me long after we reached the small town where I had originally planned to leave him. Instead of dropping him at a motel, I invited him to stay in the spare room of my apartment for a few nights. It wasn't much, a tiny place with old furniture and peeling paint, but it was warm, dry, and safe. During those few days, Michael insisted on helping with everything. He repaired broken shelves, organized old tools that had belonged to my father, and encouraged me to visit the abandoned workshop I had avoided ever since the business collapsed. At first I resisted. Every nail, every piece of lumber reminded me of failure. But Michael refused to let me surrender to regret. Together we cleaned the dusty building, repaired broken equipment, and slowly brought the workshop back to life. Neighbors noticed the activity and began stopping by with small repair jobs. One customer became 5, then 10. Within months, I was earning enough to pay my bills again. More importantly, I had found purpose where I had only seen loss. Then came the surprise that changed everything once again. One afternoon Michael received a phone call from his daughter, Sarah. A volunteer at a local shelter had helped locate her after hearing his story. She had spent years believing her father no longer wanted contact because of misunderstandings neither of them had been brave enough to correct. Their emotional reunion remains one of the most beautiful moments I have ever witnessed. Watching a father and daughter embrace after years of silence reminded me that love sometimes waits patiently behind pride, simply hoping someone will make the first move. Before Michael left to begin a new chapter with his daughter, he handed me a small wooden cross he had carved himself during his travels. He told me it wasn't meant to bring luck but to remind me that compassion always returns in ways we cannot predict. Looking back now, I understand that I thought I had rescued a lonely stranger on the side of the road. The truth was that he rescued me from becoming a man who had stopped believing in people. Before this story comes to an end, please tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced one act of kindness that changed your life forever? Your story could encourage someone who needs hope today. Years have passed since that rainy evening, and the workshop has become successful once again. Whenever someone asks what turned my life around, I never talk about business plans or financial recovery. I tell them about the storm, the lonely highway, and the stranger everyone else drove past. Sometimes the greatest blessings don't arrive wrapped in opportunity. Sometimes they stand beside a road, waiting for one person willing to stop. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us the world is still filled with hope, compassion, and unexpected miracles.